Wait, y'all, we have a project to do for Miss Marvin. I think it's over GDP.
What is even GDP?
GDP is the measurement of final goods and services in 1 year within our borders.
What? Wait, I think we have to make a song for it too.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I got something for you. I
think it was the whole video.
Put it on the aux. Put it on the aux.
Right. Change it up.
GDP, 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 ooh, GDP, 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 ooh, we selling them goods just for GDP. It's made in 1 year, that's GDP.
This is a certified hood classic.
CIGGXN. You said the U.S. got low what?
People in macro always talking about GDP ain't this, GDP ain't that. Man, get your exports up! Next time I hear someone talking sweet about our GDP,
GDP, GDP, GDP, GDP, ooh, GDP, 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 ooh, we selling them goods just for GDP. It's made in 1 year, that's GDP. Intermediate goods, that ain't GDP. If you're rocking new goods, then that's GDP. GDP, 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 ooh, GDP, 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 ooh, we selling them goods just for GDP. It's made in 1 year, that's GDP. Intermediate goods, that ain't GDP. If you're rocking new goods, then that's GDP.
GDP, GDP, GDP.
GDP.
We get in that clout just to rack it up. He was a broke boy, then GDP went up.
What? Broke boy.
We're just doing jobs till then price went up. They know the economy is made to win. They know we ain't stop till we get the win. They know we stay making that paper. Economy good got me singing.
Illegal goods that ain't with me. GDP. Net goods, yeah, they with me. GDP big like a city. GDP on a mission. When you walk in Miss Marvin's class, you gotta make one decision. Your grades start looking real low. Start studying like it's a tradition. Bingo, you got it. You ain't gotta stop it. I granted all y'all 3 wishes. They call me like magic. They call me Houdini. My money stay tall like Luigi. GDP, 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 ooh, GDP, 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 ooh, we selling them goods just for GDP. It's made in 1 year, that's GDP. Intermediate goods, that ain't GDP. If you're rocking new goods, then that's GDP. GDP, 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 ooh, GDP, 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 ooh, we selling them goods just for GDP. It's made in 1 year, that's GDP. Intermediate goods, that ain't GDP. If you're rocking new goods, then that's GDP.
Broke nation still saying GDP. All my rich nation screaming out GDP. Benjamin's increasing the wealth like inflation. Look at your GDP ain't high enough. I sent in the product to get it all counted up. Boy, you know the expenditures adding up. If it's made in the border, we counting ya. No market financial ain't adding up.
GDP, GDP, GDP. That's my man John Mary Keith. I came through flexing in a black panorama. Pull up in the PI when you see me whipping. Man, I hate that low economy.
Man, China GDP high, but they ain't got high quality.
Man, I can't stand a country with a low GDP.
Man, you know what I'm mad about?
What you mad about?
Why illegal cocaine count?
Shout out to my boys in China. We be killing the game.